and Arathusa Game Reserves in Sabi Sand, South Africa. My name's Hayden Turner. I'm with VM on camera, and welcome aboard this morning on one of the most incredible journeys, broadcasting live from South Africa right to your very computer or living room, wherever you are. You're on board our vehicle today, and it's great to have you on board. If you're a regular participant with us, fantastic, welcome back. Or if you're a newcomer, this is going to be a really great journey for you this morning. Now, it's a bit overcast today, a lot cooler than it was yesterday. I think it's sort of in the early teens in degrees. I'll get the temperatures for you later on and tell you, but that's great for us because predators actually spend a lot more time being active when it's in the cooler times. Just to give you a bit of a recap what happened last night, we left Q, the male leopard, up the top of the hill here with a kudu carcass. Now that kudu carcass was about 4 times his body weight. He wasn't going to be able to hoist that up a tree. He wasn't able to going to take it anywhere. So he ate as much as he possibly could because inevitably there was going to be some friends arriving. Well, not really friends, but these guys behind me. Have a look at this. There's some very full bellies there. This hyena clan is about 500 to 700 metres away from where that kill was last night, and we turned up at this den site this morning. The animals are just looking. One of the cubs has just walked off. He's coming back now, and we turned up this morning, and they quickly dragged the remainder of a carcass, whether it was the kudu or not, but I'm suspecting that it was, down into the hole. So they've had a full belly. They've got a full belly of food. They've brought the remainder back for the cubs, and they're just keeping a close eye on what's going on. There's 2 other cubs around somewhere, which I'm sure will show their faces very soon. We've got this little guy here that is very playful at the moment and messing about with sticks and playing with his mum and so on. So they're just milling about at the moment. But the story unfolds, and Q obviously had his meal last night, and when we got to him, he was still feeding, and we then sat with him for a while until he couldn't eat any more. He then laid down and tried to digest his food, and that's where we left him. So what would have happened is the scent of that carcass, as that scent matured, and I use that in a polite way because it was starting to, it wasn't that an offensive smell, but it was a smell much stronger than you would think. In a few sort of hours, maybe 6 or 7 hours, it became quite apparent that there was a kill there. So these hyena would have picked up on that scent very quickly. Lovely bit of behaviour going here. Beautiful stuff. So it's an interesting situation. The one on the left-hand side there, the adult, if VM just comes across, I think, and I'm only having a guess here because I don't know this clan very well, but is potentially the adults or the son of the female on the right. Female on the right has a very heavy belly. She's eaten so much food. This little guy's coming up really close to us now, VM. Right, passing in front of the car. Having a little bit of an investigation. So I'm sorry I chop and change subjects here, folks, but it's just working with whatever the animal's behaviour is doing. And we really want it. We tried to position our vehicle before in a way that we could see the animals at all times, but I'm not sure where he's gone. He's so close to the vehicle, he's gone around the other side there. He'll pop his head out at any minute. But I'm not sure of exactly who's who in this clan, because there was a couple of other adult members as well. around before, but those pups really are very high up the pecking order when it comes to care and getting first dibs on things. Here he is. There's he right at the front of the vehicle, Liam, just sticking his nose above the vehicle there. Just see him. He's just about to look over the top. But there's 3 of these little guys, and they're really playful when they're here. There's 2 somewhere else over here. We're not going to sort of chase them around the bush or anything like that. We just sit quietly. We sit in a position where we can just observe and let them dictate the moves and move around us. But these females are lying down. I'm sorry, the male and I'm not sure. It's definitely a female, the one closest to us. And I do recognise those ear notches on her right ear from... She had that very distinct one that they would have gotten in either fights or altercations. And they were at another den site a long time back, maybe 7 or 8 months ago. And they will move den sites as well. You can see very, very full milk glands there. So the pups are still suckling a bit, but she's got a full belly, and her pups actually will probably have a higher ranking than that other individual there. So that's why the mother got up and sort of walked over. It's such a complex social structure with hyena. You really have to sit with one clan and figure out who's related to who, and it is a very, very tricky situation just to turn up and try and figure it out. But you know what? With enough time and enough exposure to the animals, you start to learn, you start to see. We'll see what happens when this youngster goes over there. So too, all these vocalizations and growls and copy. We've got a question from Misha in Washington. Misha, welcome aboard. Great to have you with us. And Misha is wanting to know whether we do any hand feeding of hyena here, because there's other parts of Africa that she knows that they do. Misha, we would never under any circumstances feed an animal here. Just to let you know, this is a wildlife reserve that the balance has to be perfectly managed by the animals themselves, because this area is connected to Kruger National Park and the fences were taken down some time ago. There's a very, very good passageway and corridor for these animals to traverse. So there's no need whatsoever. As soon as man or humans start to intervene with things like that, Misha, you will get problems. You'll get problems that they'll probably end up feeding them things that they shouldn't be being fed. And the second thing is that you're starting to break down that human-animal barrier that is absolutely necessary so accidents don't occur. Once you start to have an animal that gets conditioned to human beings and doesn't have that invisible fear barrier, you start to get accidents happening, either with tourists, either with staff that work in lodges, or potentially employees of out on game drives or whatever it may be. But it's completely against the ethics and morals of all the good private reserves and national parks, completely against the rules to feed any animal. So hopefully that answers your question, Misha, and it's for a very, very good reason. As soon as you break down that barrier, you're starting to put the animal's life in danger by really just taking that chance that it could get into a conflict situation with a human, and then humans will have to intervene in another way, which is sadly happening all over the world. Animals in the wild, Misha, I think I just want to add a little bit more to this, because it's a subject very close to my heart. Animals look after themselves, and it's only when humans come into contact with animals that we have problems, and we really do have to manage that. We are responsible for having good conduct and good morals and good ethics, and I really, really push that home, that that's the way we should behave when we're in national parks or private reserves. And no matter who wants to get a photograph, or who wants to get a picture, or who wants to get closer or whatever, the animals' lives and the animals' welfare comes first and foremost always. So hopefully that's answered your question, Misha. Do we feed these in Hyena or anywhere on the reserve? The answer is a categorical no, and it will never happen, just for those reasons that I mentioned. But really interesting question, Misha, and thank you very, very much. So we've got a nice question from Maggie in Vancouver, but I do have to say this is quite a beautiful picture. This little guy, this little cub is like lying there looking absolutely fantastic, isn't he? Maggie in Vancouver has just brought up a really good point. I did notice it before myself, Maggie, and I'll try and get VM to find some pictures of it. You've noticed that one of the cubs has got a little scrape or a little abrasion to his right, I think it is, hind quarter, and it's a little tiny graze or something like that. He might have had either an altercation with one of his brothers or sisters, which definitely does happen, or he might have just had an injury out whilst having a bit of a play, but it does look like a little bit of a bite or something like that. We'll try and get a picture of it. Not sure if it's this one up here, VM, or I think it might be this little guy lying down, but... It's the bigger one. It's the bigger one there, is it? So the one up at the stick there chewing, he's... we'll try and get some images of it now for you. I think it'll heal itself, Maggie. I don't think it's anything to worry about. These animals are incredibly tough, and I think it's just a very, very minor superficial wound that will heal, no problems. But thank you for your question, Maggie. And they go through some pretty tough times, these little cubs. It's interesting, even in when they're only hours old in the den, and their mother's given birth to them, they will start to compete ferociously for dominance. It's absolutely extraordinary what happens in that den with hyena, to the point where one hyena pup can take another one's life at a very, very early age down there, to compete for dominance and compete for being the successful cub that's raised. And sometimes it's quite difficult for the adult, if the pups have gone down into a smaller den site, maybe another tunnel that hasn't been dug out as much as the other ones, and the mother can't get down. There's pretty much nothing she can do except let them fight it out down there. There's been great data collected on that. Here's another little pup coming out of the den. Excuse me. So if you've got any questions, folks, please, you can tweet us at #SafariLIVE, or you can send us an email at questions@wildearth.tv, and we'd be more than happy to answer them. It's a very complex social system, as I said, and if I don't know the answer, I'll definitely ask everyone out there to give me a hand, because I'm learning constantly about hyena. The more time you spend with them, the more things you learn about them, and particularly this clan. The behavioural side of things, one can learn and do lots of reading and watching on, but the structure of particular clans, and as I'm not super familiar with this clan, I do think the female is the same female I saw 7 months ago, but these puppies weren't here when I was here 7 months ago. So any information that anyone has on this clan would be fantastic. Always helps me out, and that's what Wild Safari Live's all about, helping each other out, being on this journey together, and sharing as much information we can about these wonderful creatures. Yeah, that's a little guy there. It's got a little wound on his back there. Liam's got it right in shot there. We'll try and get it again. Maggie, it does look very superficial. I think it'll be fine. The theory is that these two little pups that we can see together here are the Matriarch's pups. These belong to the sister of potentially the Matriarch, the alpha female. Sorry, is probably a term that we should use there. And then the one with the little wound on his, just up there, on his tail, on his hindquarters, is the Matriarch's pup, or the alpha female's pup. So it's quite a complex thing. Sometimes they will do this communal den situation, and other times there's a communal den situation that occurs, but there's no communal care, so to speak. So it's not like one pup's mum's going to look after the other pups, but they might share a den, and they often change from den to den if the parasitic infestation in the den gets too high. So if parasites become unbearable down in that den, ticks and other things, fleas and things, they will actually move dens and wait for that parasitic infestation to die out, and then potentially go back to another den and move around. But it just depends on so many different factors. These animals are very habituated to us. We've been coming here on and off for many moons, and as you can see, they're in no way are they affected by our presence. They're completely relaxed. The pups are playing, the parents or the adults are just lying there resting, and it's a very, very nice situation to be in, to be able to watch this behaviour. So this is potentially the mother, I'd say, of those two pups. Excuse me. So I got a question from Sherry in Ohio about how many sets of teeth do the hyena have. Well, they're actually born with milk teeth, Sherry, which is pretty incredible. They don't grow through like some animals do. They're born with milk teeth, and they can use those milk teeth in a very aggressive hold on the back of the neck on one of their rival siblings from a very young age. And then once they lose those milk teeth, they get their next teeth. I'm not sure exactly what time they lose those milk teeth, Jerry, so unfortunately I can't give you that answer, but maybe someone could help me with that. I'm not sure at what age hyena lose their milk teeth, but I know they are born with a pretty good set of milk teeth and can use them ferociously on one of their siblings to assert dominance. So Sherry, hopefully that answers part of your question, and maybe some of our participants could help me on that to find out at what time in a cub's growth do we lose the milk teeth and get our next set. Thank you, Sherry. Fantastic question, because I learned something from this as well. We've got a question from Tamara in Shawnee. Tamara's asking, are the pups old enough to eat meat? They definitely are old enough to eat some meat, but they'd still be suckling, and it varies hugely on parental care and how the pups are. They're weaned. They start. It takes several months. And after about a year, there's these incredible tantrums that occur when the mother won't give them any more milk, and actually embarrassingly funny tantrums, I suppose you could say, when you watch them. They really do throw their toys out of the cot, so to speak, and you find these little cubs, having these tantrums when their mother won't give them any more milk. But yes, they're definitely okay to be eating meat now. You can see the dominance behaviour here of this particular individual in the middle. He's the older one, and he's definitely throwing his weight around at the moment on these two younger ones. So Tamara, hopefully that answers your question. Are they old enough to eat meat? They definitely are. Some of them were down in the den when we were just starting to go to air this morning, and they were just having a meal down there, because we definitely saw them drag part of the carcass down into the den when we arrived. So that was perfect timing. That we do know that, putting two and two together and only being 500 metres away, Q had that kudu kill. We're pretty sure that's going to be part of that kudu. William's doing a fantastic job of tracking these pups at the moment. We might just watch this little bit of play because it's quite fun. They're chasing each other around. But there may be more to what we're watching at the moment as well. That slightly older male to the alpha female might be asserting dominance. It might look like a bit of play, but it could be there could be a little bit more in it. She's watching carefully what's going on. Yes, my girl. So she's going down, just looking to see if she can get any of that food. There's a little bit of food down in that hole. I'm not sure she's going to bring it out or whether she's going to try and eat it down there. There's either two reasons why she's standing there. A, she can't get down inside that den and the pups have dragged it too far down. Or B, she's just surveying the land at the moment. Billy Joe is asking a question in Florida. Hi Billy Joe, great to have you with us. There's some lovely behaviour going on here at the moment. The pups are really playful and all over the parents. But Billy Joe, your question, is the correct term to refer to the youngsters pups or cubs? And the correct term is cubs. Long debated, but definitely cubs is what you refer hyenas to. It's an interesting one. Hyenas are more cat-like than they are dog-like. So the general consensus scientifically is we refer to them as cubs. And they are in a family all of their own. Thank you very much, Billy Joe, for your question. It's a question that I often slip up because you'll hear me sometimes say the pups. One would think that, it's just because they have a sort of dog-like quality to them. But it's definitely, the terminology is cubs when you're talking about hyena offspring, hyena young. So the other thing is to remember that males don't play any parental role in this, and they're very rarely allowed near the den site. You'll find mothers will often chase them off. The alpha female will often chase them off. And then I think we came up here the other night and we saw a male turn up, and one of the young cubs take on this male, went into him, started to lay into him and bit him and started to tear into his leg. And this was a young cub of the alpha female, and the male did nothing. It's really, really interesting. Just another vehicle leaving, folks. So males are not tolerated around the den, and the young cubs have the audacity, I suppose is the word, to give them a really serious warning to stay away, and the mother will support that, and the males that do arrive would under no circumstances dare to touch that cub, or they'd have the wrath of the alpha female on them, which could end up in a conflict, which then heightens the risk of injury, and it goes on and on and on. So it's very interesting, and you learn more and more the more you watch hyenas, and particularly in this fantastic situation we're in right now. We're very privileged to be here. Excuse me. These females might be closely related as well. Nice thing to excuse me, nice thing to note is no matter how close they are, they won't cross-suckle either. They will only look after their own young. Complex, interesting, successful hunters and scavengers, and definitely don't deserve the historical sort of tag or persona that they've been given. They are absolutely fantastic animals and play a huge role in the habitat and the ecology of the area. And off they walk. So they might have gone for a little wander. I suppose we should go for a little wander. That was quite a beautiful time with those hyena. Very, very complex, and you know, hyena scientists that spend their whole scientific career studying hyena are learning more and more about hyena. All these little tiny intricacies that they have to observe over thousands of hours of data collection. And that's one thing we have to do, folks, as well, is tip our hats to the scientific community of the world that give us all this information that we sort of not take for granted, but we deliver to you. It's all things that we've read or we've heard or we've talked to scientists, and we're re-delivering that information. Some of the things that we may have observed ourselves, of course, in the wild, but you know, the scientific community we have to take our hats off to them hugely, because there's thousands of hours of hard work. It's this, everyone sort of thinks it's a romantic thing about being out in the African bush, but they sweat it out, they carry their gear into the bush, they sit, they watch for hours and hours and hours, and sometimes there's nothing happening, but they collect their data, they write up their papers or their PhDs or whatever it is, their studies, and they serve that up to us on a platter. We're very, very privileged. So the hats off to the scientific community out there giving us all that beautiful information. You're amazing people. Right, I think we're going to go for a little drive. So I'm just going to have a little look around some of the old haunts here. Easy access. We've got a good thing up our sleeve, and that is this temperature, folks. It's definitely cool enough for predators to be active much later. I like that sometimes. I do love those early morning beautiful sunrises and the heat, of course. But I really enjoy these cooler mornings. BM just heard an alarm call. An alarm call of an impala down here. Just listening.